Welcome to my presentation, KPIs in CSR reporting as a vehicle for climate neutrality. First of all, I would like to give you an overview, what is awaiting you for the next 50 minutes. I would like to start with giving you a short introduction about CSR directive, who is actually covered by the directive and for whom can it become relevant, and what should be reported in the non-financial statement. To be able to give you some figures, I will take Germany as an example. So I would like to show you next what the situation in Germany is, how many companies, for example, already have implemented a CSR strategy or sustainability strategy, but also which opportunities are expected from companies when they implement a sustainability strategy or measures. And at last, how can those hesitant companies be helped who are willing to do something, and how to facilitate the entry level for interested companies. I will give you the basic idea of my suggestion of implementation guide, because a paper will be published in detail about that topic. So let's start. Which companies are now covered by the directive? Here you see the pyramid. On the right side, the text, the first level of the directive itself. The second level shows the implementation in Germany, which means if your company is a joint stock company and capital market oriented and has more than 500 employees, you're covered by that directive. And I call those companies the directly affected companies. And what is interesting is that according to the study of the Institute for Ecological Economy Research and Future, there are only about 450 companies who are directly affected. And around 44% of them are banks and 9% insurance companies. So what should these directly affected companies do? Here you see the directive itself, and to make it shorter, as we only focus on climate only, there's a summary. And actually it states that the information about the impact of a company's activity relating to environmental matters should be included, which is a wide definition. And the guideline is published 2017. And here a definition is given about what is the impact of the activities. It means that products, impact of products, services, business relationships, including supply chain aspects, are to be reported. And there's actually no special focus on climate, but as climate is a very important issue, there is support is given through a supplement document published 2 years later. And as you can see, the whole value chain should be considered. And for manufacturing companies, it means that the whole product life cycle, including supply chain, raw material, product use, and end of life. And for service companies, remember, 44% banks and 9% insurance companies means 55% of all these directly affected companies will have to report what the impact is of their activities that they support or facilitate. So the consequence is that actually the directly affected company itself can collect data and provide information, but it won't be enough. It is insufficient. So they have to collect and aggregate from related companies, upstream and downstream. That means the suppliers as well as customers, and of course other related companies if there is an impact. which leads to the fact that we need to, yeah, to add another level of the pyramid, because we have now the indirectly affected companies, um, which are who have to provide information and have to contribute. Otherwise, the directly affected companies cannot have a proper report. So that also means that we have 450 companies directly affected, but we have much more which are indirectly affected. And it's if we think about how connected the world today is in the economy, maybe the whole economy is actually indirectly affected somehow. So let's move on to a reality check. So how many companies really have a CSR strategy? And also here, Germany was taken as an example. We have the survey results of the Energy Efficiency Index of the German industry. And as we can see, if we ask, does the company has a CSR strategy? 34% said yes, that means a third of it. Another third, 32%, said no, we don't have one. But I think it's a quite large share. 22% says yes, we don't have one, but possibly in future. And 11% said, okay, I don't know CSR strategy, so they are actually not informed. So this is the situation within the manufacturing industry. But how is the situation of the other branches? That's the reason why I brought another survey here. And you can see it is conducted by the Commerzbank of Germany, and it covers the service, manufacturing industry, trade, and construction. And actually, the results are very similar. They didn't ask for a CSR strategy, but a sustainability strategy in the company. And we can see the 35% says, okay, we have one, and 32% is the same figure. We don't have one, but here the share is larger. 32% says, okay, we are still planning. And so it's quite interesting. But now what I wanted to know was why does companies do that? Except of course they are directly affected. And as you see in the numbers, 800 or 2000, there are many indirectly affected companies within the participants. So the next slide shows you that if you ask them, okay, if you are committed and or you implemented the sustainability measures, what kind of opportunities do you expect or see for your company? And the high percentage of 80–70% shows clearly that all these possible opportunities given here, there is agreement within the majority of the participants. Although it's really unfortunate that there is no answer option CSR because I'm directly affected. But still, I think it's quite obvious. But if you look at the last two here, better rating when granting loans or attracting or retaining investors, there is it is a minority who agrees to these 2 points. And if we think of these directly affected companies in Germany are 44% banks, it's unbelievable that such a small amount of participants out of 2000 are selected these two answer options. So it seems for me that most companies know about CSR, but they're not aware that the largest share of those directly affected companies are banks. So maybe they will be affected in the future, indirectly, of course. But I think things will change through the new taxonomy. And that's also the reason why I'm really looking forward to the presentation of Mr. Hundorf. Yeah, but still, let's take a look again at these two survey results. If we look at the two groups of those who are still planning and those who don't have one but think they will possibly have one strategy in future, for me, most likely they are somehow indirectly affected. So my question is, how can we support those companies who are willing to implement a CSR strategy or a sustainability strategy? And the second question for me is, how can we activate these 32% that of companies they maybe just do not know that they are maybe are or will be indirectly affected in the future? So to answer these two questions, I came up to the idea and the suggestion to use implementation guideline with KPIs as a core factor. So that can be a guide to the climate maturity. When we think again of the supplement document I mentioned at the beginning, within that document, it is recommended how to do that. So actually to assess the performance, you should set a target and report against these targets and use key performance indicators so you can describe the process. I fully agree with that recommendation because performance indicators are really suitable to reflect the target and, of course, to monitor it. So it is quite easy to describe the process. And even in that document, reporting frameworks are mentioned. And of course, we have this question, okay, why don't use these existing reporting frameworks? There's so many of them. But I think it's similar to energy efficiency. There are enough frameworks like and guidance and whatever, like ISO 50001, etc., etc. But the problem is, if you want to use that, you just need to have time. So it is a lot of work, and you need especially background knowledge. And in my opinion, success is only possible when there's no knowledge asymmetry. So the suggestion is to use a kind of implementation guideline because in these existing frameworks, the objective and purpose is quite clear. It is reporting, and that's it. But what we need to help these companies is to help them to transfer the required information which is needed and to in a process, how can it be delivered? So what do I have to do to get to these results that should be presented in these reporting things? So the focus here is not to show just a status, okay, this is the result, but how to get to these results. So how to develop and establish a performance indicator system and how to motivate all these companies to reach the target and to show them, okay, what are benefits? So something like data collection is also a very big topic that should be done at the beginning. And as an implementation guideline, it should be really a guide, in my opinion. So if you set a target, you should make the definition together. That means management and the energy or climate manager should sit together and discuss it and define target. So that the same understanding can be ensured. And the next step is that the definition of the target indicator, as well as other key performance indicators, should be user-oriented. Because if we don't do it like that, they won't be used. They're just there because you have defined them somehow, someone, and then they won't be used, or the usage is just for the report only, but no other effects having these kinds of performance indicators. And at last, the success of these measures you have taken are visible through the through the indicators, and also can be understood in the context of the target. That means it won't be a one-time only sustainable measure. So you've done it, and yeah, and that was it. But it should be a process that should be keep running, and you shouldn't stop with it except you really reached your target. Now the time is up, and I come to the conclusion. So the whole value chain should be considered within this non-financial statement, and that's the reason why they are not only the 550 roundabout directly affected companies, but also the indirectly affected companies are really large in numbers, and the sustainability measures offer so many opportunities and benefits beyond CSR. So actually, it is worth for every company to do something about it. And at last, yeah, we would like to support the companies with this implementation guideline, so the performance indicator system can be used, but not only to just monitor and state the status, but also how to help how to transfer the requirements in a really usable process within the company. Okay, thank you for your